Hi, I'm Nancy Knight, Director of Writers Track at DragonCon, this year's virtual DragonCon, and I'm here with a couple of really interesting guys. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then we'll talk about making movies. Matt.
Which one?
Which one? There's
See? Okay, there's two of you. So Matt Green, go first.
My name is Matt Green. I'm a filmmaker in Atlanta. I've been here making movies here and everywhere else professionally for the past 33 years. And I'm currently about to start directing my 10th feature film in about 3 weeks. And I've been coming to DragonCon as a guest since year one. So
we had to get you in this year so you wouldn't miss a year, right?
Yep.
That's right. So, okay, Mr. McGahren, Matt McGahren.
Yeah. So, gosh, it was because of DragonCon that I started directing films. I actually met Matt Green, been directing for about 12 years now. I grew up watching legal dramas, legal thrillers. I'm a trial lawyer, so I've been writing not only stories, but closing arguments and the like. And I'm in the process of getting ready to shoot my first feature. So.
Wow. Okay. So, and my claim to this is that with Matt Green and my friend Yasmin Bakhtiari, we did a film 2 years ago called Evil Little Things, which is available now on DVD from Amazon, or you can download it from Amazon. What?
And Walmart.
And Walmart. Yep, you can get it in Walmart and Best Buy. I don't know if Best Buy still has it, but they did at one time. So for an investment of only $9.99, you can own Evil Little Things.
Well, I thought you were going to say that was the investment of the film.
Yes, if you'll just pay us what this film costs, you can have a copy of it. We'll bring it to your house and we'll play it for you. We'll play out some of the roles in it for you. We'll do whatever.
In fact, just act it out right here, Nancy.
Yeah, we could do that. So how did you get interested in doing your own film?
In 1977, I saw that little movie you might have heard of and went crazy. Like, how did they do that? And I started making movies with an 8mm camera with two friends of mine when I was 10. And by the time I turned 18, I had my first professional job doing special effects for a company here in Atlanta. And I just kept on making movies. And I never made whole movies. I just would go out on the weekends and just shoot stuff or set up little vignettes in my backyard and shoot stuff until I got to be, in 1999, 21 years ago, and I had a buddy of mine show up that had some money he didn't know what to do with, and I said, hey, I know what to do, and we made a movie. It's called Severed. It's a really horrible movie, but we got it done, and it got in a film festival, and that started my directing career, and I've been pushing forward with it ever since.
And Matt?
Yeah, I think mine starts at the same point in 77. We're actually both born in 67. We were both 10, and I heard Matt speak originally, and I said, I shared the same path, except I wrote. I was writing screenplays, short films all through high school and college, and I was sitting in a film class about 1986, and I did research. I said, the cost of film, the cost of cameras, there's no way I can do this independent. So I decided the career path of being a trial lawyer, and then at some point, about 1999, Blair Witch Project came out. I started thinking about this. Again, it came back. This could be a possibility. Then took acting classes, figured want to learn to act a little bit if I'm going to direct. And then every year would come by and nothing would happen. And the urge to get something done happened in 2009. And I brought together all the actors I'd met. We shot our first short film and have probably directed 15 to 20 short films since then, to learn to hone the craft and just continue to do that and then start writing again. So I waited, I had this break, so I'll be doing this in late, as long as I'm alive. Now I've got the total film bug. But
It's funny because you mentioned Blair Witch Project. That was kind of the reason that the guy with the money that I knew was willing to go in, because he was like, oh, cheap movies make money, and we all believe that, which is not always truth, but it helped me get that going. So, it's a good milestone in '99 when that happened.
Yeah.
So, do you recommend for a writer to try to produce his own film? Or her?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you should. Without something written, there's no movie. And if we have a saying in the business, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. So start writing first, and then you make your own film. But and you can make a bad movie first. I did. It's okay. Learn the business, learn the art first, and then very importantly, learn the business. Because I'm still, as of just a couple of days ago, had a meeting that I had to, remember, or I had to work out some things I hadn't done in the business yet, as far as financially with the investor and so forth. So, but mainly just make stuff.
But you need a lawyer too, of course. Well, that being said, I mean, you said produce your own written work. There's a lot of individuals, I didn't think so at first, who want to be producers, who want to take a shot at that. So I would assemble a team, and that's the one thing I've loved about filmmaking. People are so passionate, they'll come out and help you. If you get the word out there, you can assemble that. But to see your work come alive, that's the main goal. But I don't know necessarily if I'd say produce it, because unless you're reading a lot of books, you can learn by doing, but why not bring in skilled people or someone who produced a little bit, or people are happy to help each other. They really are.
Right.
And I was going to say, do you just buy a book about how to make a movie and sit down? Okay, page 1 you got to do this, page 2 you got to do this, or as one of the other people that I actually interviewed last night was talking about being a part of the community. How strong is the film community, and how willing are they to help you?
In Atlanta, very good. I've got a lot. I mean, for instance, right now, this film I'm about to do, it's low budget, and I called some people that work on big budget stuff that I know and said, I can't afford you, but I need you, and there's nothing going on right now. And so they're happy to jump in and help, because they want to make something while nothing's happening, because COVID's got everything locked down. So yeah, it's very important.
And everyone's kind of interconnected. So even if you develop your own team and this and that, if someone can't make it, 2 degrees of separation. I mean, I don't know everyone in the film community, but those we work with have all had the love of film. It's interesting, when you share that meaningfulness, have a connection, the meaning behind it, the passion. And
I put a thing out yesterday on Facebook that said, I need a makeup and hair person, and here's the show. And within moments, I had 20 people sending me names, and 5 of those were the actual people who were, willing to. And I had somebody hired inside of 30 minutes. So, and I know I had a little money. I didn't have much, trust me, but I had enough, to pay somebody something. But even if you have nothing, we have a community where there's a lot of people who want to learn out there, and you can easily put a word out, a lot of people in, and tell them you have nothing to pay them, or you can give them credit and a hamburger, and you'll find somebody that'll show up. And the beauty of it is, whatever level you're at, that's usually the level of people you work with, so you grow together, which is a nice thing.
Well, I have seen some stuff online saying, from certain people, well, why aren't we getting paid on these small films and this and that? And the reality is, like myself, I've invested tens of thousands of dollars in creating content on short films for the pure love of it. And I would love to pay everybody. And so I think there's some that when they rise to a certain level, you have the Hollywood network level, and then you're trying to get there and making the best work you can, and that. So I have seen some conversations that I have people that say, look, we understand people don't like deferred compensation and this and that. So if you don't want that, but it's not personal when the money's not. And I know even when you made, your film, Nancy, there's a certain budget. You can only do so much. And I just concerned that others out there don't understand what it takes to make a film. And so I'll make that clear. And when we do our independent film, we'll have a deferred structure, but everyone understands it's very unlikely that that's going to come to fruition. But if it does, we want everyone to share in that. So that's one issue I'd say. I
And
don't
one
know
of
about that, Matt.
well, one of the things you can remember to do is once you start building a team, and you do tend to meet people that are at a higher level than you are. For as an example, on this show I'm about to do, I called a friend of mine who's a camera operator for big shows, but he's a DP. He's been a DP on small stuff, little independent things. Called him and said, "Hey, do you want to DP my show?" Well, he's excited because he's not worried about the money, because he's been wanting to DP more movies. So now he gets to be a director of photography on a film, and he still has his professional job where he makes good money and is a respected camera operator. But I get his knowledge of working with these big time guys that are the DPs. They rub off on him. I get his experience. He's happy to do it. So everybody wins.
And you're going to bring him back when you hit the budget. And the other thing, we've been able to refer out lots of commercial work. I've had people approach me, can you make this commercial or music video? I refer to someone who has come out before. We want everyone to, to reap the rewards of some commercial stuff. Because that's something you and I have worked on. I mean, you Netherworld commercial, and go ahead, Nancy. Sorry.
So it seems like from the grassroots up, if you have the tenacity and the stubbornness, maybe is the word here, the passion, you can find a way to get it done. And the level at which you get it done probably is going to depend on the amount of money you raise to do it. And let's be honest, you got to raise some money.
That was true before, and it's still true. Yeah, it's still true to an extent. You have to have something, but the beauty of it is now with the fact that the digital equipment is so inexpensive and there's such good cameras for so cheap that you can buy a camera and a good couple lenses and a couple of lights. If you got talent and you got people around you who have a modicum of talent, you can make something that's really smoking good. I mean, as far as, I can't talk about the writing because that depends on your script, but as far as technically, you can get it done.
Yeah, and the cameras have come up to such a level. The Black Magics we're shooting on, you can't really tell the difference between some of the cameras you see on any television show now. We've been testing them. The anamorphic lenses we just pulled in are, $600, one of these Indiegogos where they used to be $3,000. So again, from what I was saying before, when I was reluctant in college, it's all there. It's a dream come true that you can do that. I think the biggest thing, Matt, you agree, is attaching major talent to go to that next level. And a lot of times half the budget will go that way if you get a real budget.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And that's the hard part, finding major talent. But you're not really going to go after major talent on your first film or two unless you have a real budget. And remember that the only person on a film set that doesn't have to have any experience, if you have a budget, is the director, because you've got everybody around you to do the work that knows how to do all those little pieces. You're just a guide. So as you're learning, though, you learn that. You learn even without a budget how to guide these people, because all the director is a yes and no person. I like that, I don't like that. You're the audience for the crew and the actors.
Well, Nancy, to add something, you start with, if you're a writer, would you want to produce your own, screenplay? And I think if you're looking for a director, the one thing I've done, I'm writing some of my own stuff, but I've gone to screenwriters and I have to be connected to that piece because it shows on screen. So I would say if you're a writer, look for someone who's like, hell yeah, when they see that script, because that's what's important, to connect it. My best work so far, I've been connected to, or it's a story from my childhood, and I directed even the screenwriter to adjust it to something that speaks to me. Because that'll come on the screen.
I have to tell you this.
If you're even starting out to make something really great.
One of the questions I was going to ask you guys is about the idea for a film, and how do you get the idea? And my TV set is on here, and it's drifting to a screensaver, I guess, that Xfinity puts out there. And one of the little captions was that the German police just found a bunch of liquid hamster DNA on a train. And I thought, God, what a great idea for a movie. Who would put hamster DNA on a train? What, I mean, it's like that.
Wait. Why? What is liquid?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
So what is it? What is liquid hamster DNA?
I got no clue, but I could write a movie about it, you know? So there you go. It'd have to be a horror movie, or it'd have to be a real comedy. It'd have to be one of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets in the train, you turn into a hamster.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Everybody that finds it turns into a hamster. So how do you actually go about finding funding? If you're a poor writer, which most writers as they start out are, how can you find money to help you? Is there a magic wand that you wave? Is there a telephone number that you can look up on the internet that says, I'll pay for you to produce your movie? Or is it just who you know, or finding people that way who have money? Or
Well,
maybe calling Matt McGahren?
That's a lot of legal. Well, I'm the one that scares everybody off because there's all kinds of security exchange rules on raising money. There is, you know, we before did some Kickstarter campaigns and that, but then you find out the nightmare story of all the work you have to do behind it. So there's a little bit of luck. I think when you read some of these movies, like Phantasm is one of my favorite horror films, but if you read about how they raised money, they went to one dentist and a lawyer at a time. I don't know if all that's legal, but it depends. Are you talking a short film or are you talking a feature film?
Well, I'm talking in general.
In general?
But
Short films.
Short films you should not need an awful lot of money for, right?
Pretty much, you need a catering budget. You need to be able to feed people. That's your main thing on a short film.
All right, Matt Green, you did a 1-minute movie that had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and was an absolutely great movie. So shorts you can make with barely any budget, right?
I made that at my house with my neighbor and his daughter acting for me.
Well,
we just did it over the course of 3 or 4 days. A little shot here, a little shot there, and I did the miniatures in my garage and had fun with it. So yeah, you can do whatever you want.
But money makes a difference.
Money makes a difference. Yeah. All right.
For props, for instance.
Can somebody see that 1-minute movie somewhere?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's called The Reply, and it's on my channel. Which if you put in camera FX24 into YouTube, you will go to my channel and it's there.
Okay, and it's called The Reply.
The Reply.
Okay, all right. I think that movie is just a riot. So, for 1 minute, it's unbelievable. Okay, so if you decide to do your own film, or maybe you don't decide to do your own film, we're in Georgia, which is Hollywood East, basically. So maybe there's somebody here, maybe there's a production company here. How do you go about researching to find a production company that will accept your script to look at even? That's kind of a deterrent because nobody wants to look at a script. How do you get it in front of somebody who might have the money and the wherewithal to produce it?
You want to start, Matt?
Well, I do know there's certain places that you can go for, I guess out in California, where they'll have production companies already figuring out what films they're looking for to start there, because certain genres will do better than others. But there's generally you have to have an agent to really go in LA, is my understanding. Is that right, Matt? What's your understanding?
It helps a lot, yeah.
Always looking for money, but.
I probably am of the three of us the one that does that route the most. And it's not about getting your script in front of anybody. I mean, it is, but as a rule, it's easy to get people to read your script, but it's not easy to get people who have money to read your script. Their general question is normally, how do I get my money back? That's all they care about. And the first, as Nancy knows, when we had our first meeting with our executive producer for Evil Little Things, the very first thing I said was, you're probably going to lose this money. Can you afford to lose it? And it's a very important question to ask someone, unless they're a corporation, because you don't want to be responsible for making a movie and somebody loses their house. I mean, I really, really feel that way.
So the When he wants to support artists, those individuals that have disposable income, and everyone's looking for that high net worth person that's ready to do it. But if you're talking traditional production companies, that's different. That's the independent world versus, going through Hollywood. That's a whole different level.
No matter how you crack it up, there's no easy way to raise money. And unfortunately, the system is stacked against us when we finish a film. Making money with it, you really need to get a distribution in place before you make the film, because then you've got leverage when it's finished to make money with it. If you make your movie, no matter how expensive it is or how cheap it is, you make it first and then try to sell it, it's really difficult to make any money. The system is set up against filmmakers, and that's a shame, but that's truly the way it is.
And that's with the Western. I am actually going to put my own money in because, and I've been saving for a while here, Nancy, because the reality is it's another layer of having to say, hey, your money's gone, and then do it as low budget as you can. I mean, our Western are mostly, there's a big shootout, but 3 cowboys in the desert for, 2/3 of the film. And we can make it done, and I get people a passion to come out that will, because they want to do it. We'll fly them out, a few people, and say, all I can do is feed you. Can we come out for 2 weeks and shoot it? So that's the independent world. Even if you get 100 or 200, it's still that thin. If you're talking the $1 million, get the tax deduction from Georgia, I think you have significant companies that want a distribution plan, like you said. And they want probably a named actor, because that will show a track record.
Normally with that situation, yes, they want a track record, but more importantly, they want to know that you know what you're doing, and they want to make sure that your script is something that people want to see, because nobody wants to watch something that's boring. And it's also about having an actor attached. As an example, I have a screenplay that I was supposed to shoot at the beginning of the year that got pushed off because of COVID, and I have a name actor attached, and she's trying to go after a second name actor who's actually an Oscar nominee, which knock on wood, for me, just to help out. And if she gets her, then I'll be able to ask for real money, because I want to do this. My original plan was to be able to do this film really cheap for like $50,000, but now in a position where maybe I can, raise something over $500,000, and then at $500,000 you get the tax deduction back from Georgia. So whoever gives me $500,000 or more, they get back 1/3 of that as a tax deduction, and they're not giving me as much money, and I've still got all that money to play with. So it becomes easier.
Okay, so you mentioned a really important thing, and we've kind of skirted around this. What about the script? What do I need to write that will make somebody sit up and say, "Hey, this could be a money-making movie. I'm willing to invest"?
Well, that's the big question. You write what you know, or you write something that really interests you. I've learned what to, kind of what people want as far as to make the script that I'm going to do. It's the one I'm talking about. It was born out of going, how do I make a really cheap movie, and what have I got at my disposal? And then after brainstorming with other writers, we turned it into something that's actually really entertaining. At the beginning, it was a fun movie, but it didn't have near the panache it's going to have now that we've spent several years rewriting it. And that's the other thing. You don't necessarily want to write something and then immediately make it. You want time to mull it over, go to have readings, have a screenplay reading with your friends. Even if they're not actors, just read it out loud. Find out what you can fix, what you can change, what you can add, what you can take away. Most films I've made, I've done at least the fifth draft before we shot. One of them was like draft 12, and it's one of the best films I've made because we kept honing it. We kept honing it.
That's a tough question. What kind of screenplay to write? I mean, you want to write something that you want to see and not worry about anybody else, in my opinion, because chances are, if you love it, somebody else will. Now, I think Matt's always said this: write really big and then pull back, because budget, will dictate where you go with that. There are a lot of Hitchcock films long time ago that are still will draw you in, where there were no, it was all dialogue with a few people and a gun. So that's where I'm kind of heading with my writing, knowing that, okay, let's get back to suspense, something for the independent. I keep going. And Matt and I have worked on a series of short films where like we have to build a shark, and then we got to build a house to blow up, and this and that. Okay, that's great. That's what we want to do. But the reality is, if there's a market for that drama, it's probably the best way to get it started to do that low budget. You produce it. Some people are doing script mints, if you're familiar with this. I saw this one director. They shoot the whole thing for $3,000. They lay out the beats of the story and saying, okay, you two are going to have a fight over, the dogs, going on the floor, whatever it is, and let's do it. And then they know where the scene goes, and they can shoot really quick. 12 angry men all in one room. I may do a courtroom drama, or that's really exciting, but it'll be 45 minutes. I did a 7-camera shoot for the national, Matt helped me with National Mock Trial Association with Kids, and we just let a 3-hour trial roll, one take. There's ways creatively, and if you write it in such a way to get it out there, because you could write all these scripts, have them piled up, but if you think in terms of what can be shot easily, quick, whether it's a script mint for a few $1,000s, I think that's the way to start.
I agree, and also remember to keep writing. You won't necessarily make everything you write. You shouldn't, but keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. It is a learned muscle, and you will get better with it over time. Find people that you trust to tell you whether your work is good or not. Let them read it and get honest opinions. If your dialogue is bad, work on dialogue. There's so much stuff on YouTube right now, and I still watch it all the time. Things about interviews with writers and things on filmmaking and stuff, because I pick up little things here and there. But there's a ton of good writing stuff on YouTube.
Well, let me say this along those lines. So I've worked with different screenwriters, and Matt and I are trying to put together a story, but we're going to kind of lay it out, the story and the plot points, and then we're going to hand it to a writer. So there's a collaboration that can really work. In fact, at the same time, heard this before, it's like 3 films. Okay, it's a script, it's what you shoot, and I'm sure when you did the Evil Little Things movie, it wasn't exactly, the script changed a little bit, the edit changed it, the feel, but the collaboration. So what I've done because of time is I've gone to screenwriter and I'll say, okay, here's the story I want. And at this point, I want this kid to say that, and then this, and then I can move faster as a director, writer, director, story by now. And I'm moving quicker that way, but then I'm connected to it. So that's all I have to say about that.
So if a guy like you comes to somebody who's a writer, if you hear somebody's a pretty good writer and you go to them and say, hey, I've got this idea for a film, will you write the script? What should that person respond? Should they say, oh yeah, let's do it? Or should they start plaguing you with questions about points and who's going to be in it and what are you going to do and where are you going to shoot and blah, blah? Or should you just sit down and talk about the project itself, the script itself, and begin to develop that? Or should the writer that you are hiring concern himself or herself with all of that other stuff that's going to happen once the script gets handed to you?
Well, I can answer that because the film I'm about to do is written by someone who's very protective of their words. And I was brought in knowing that I can't change anything. So it's been kind of frustrating when I go, hey, I got this idea, let's do that. And he looks at me like I just killed his child. That's why we call it killing our babies in the business, because he's so beholden of it. But he's beholden of it because the script is about his family. It's loosely based on his family, so he's really beholden. And I came into it knowing that. But as far as let me back up. The first thing I would do if you're gonna write something with somebody and you don't know them personally, like if Matt and I decide to do something together, no problem. But if you bring in somebody you don't know, you should put on paper, even if it's just a paragraph, that here's what our plan is. We're working towards this. You own this much of this project. I own this much, because then it comes to a point when you start to make it, then people start changing their minds about, oh, that's mine and that's yours, and that's not yours, and you can end up with a problem. And it may not even be a legally binding agreement, but at least it's something that you both agreed on, or put it in a text even, so you have something to show them that, yeah, you said this, I said this, and this is where we're going. It just makes people remember to stay within that,
Training you well to do that. But going back to, I think what you're asking is, so I go to a writer and I say, look, I got this story about these people ready to kill themselves over a Monopoly game. What I want to hear first is, heck yeah, I want to do that. I want to write that. That excites me. So I probably have about 50 ideas, and I write a lot of things down. So if I met with a writer and say, okay, here's 50 ideas, which one speaks to you the most? What will you get excited about? Because that will come across on the page. I'd also want to see what that screenwriter has written before, and have an understanding that, may write it, and I might not feel it as a director. So it depends on what level. It's either how detailed is that story. I had one, I said I wanted to see sympathy for a vampire who was being hunted down. And my screenwriter went in a whole another direction, but I got that part of it, and that's all I gave it. And I'm glad that got on screen. So I think it's that connection. Now, I directed a few horror films, and I had somebody come up after one of the festivals and say, I want to write for you. I want to write something similar to what I saw on the screen. And so we're still talking about that. And I kind of drafted a first script, and I'm going to hand to someone and say, add some more comedy. So I've written before, and then I hand it back. How do you think I should fix this? So that relationship, you just have to be careful how you define it. And you can define it legally too, but you'll know if you can work with somebody and collaborate very quickly. There's some screenwriters that won't change a word or won't change a plot point, even if 10 people tell them. So.
Well, I've dealt with writers for almost as many years as you two have been alive. And what I find is there are people who are so wed to their words that they won't change anything for anybody. And I've actually had people that ask me to edit a book, and then when I suggest the edits, they go, oh no, I can't do that. And I'm, well, why are you paying me to edit it if you're not going to listen to what I say? And I guess the same thing is true if I give you my film script and you say, well, I'd like to make this, but there's a couple of changes I'd like to make, and I'm going like, no, you can't change my words. That's not the kind of person you're going to want to work with ever, right?
There's a reason why writers are not normally allowed on a set in a Hollywood movie because they don't want to hear. Once it's been handed in, it's now the director's medium. It is a director's medium, and it's now the director's job to take it and make it his own. Unfortunately, as a writer, you either do plays or don't do movies, because if you're that precious of it, you shouldn't.
Well, let me say this, Nancy. One thing I've developed over the last 12 years is understanding that the story from the director's point on the camera and when you hold is part of the story at that point. And a lot of writing and scripts that come back, they're too dialogue driven, in my opinion. I'm working on something I'm writing where virtually 80% of it's all going to be visual. So there's visual and sound and is there music and all that when you write is important there. So that can be changed as the director and the editor. And as a writer, I wouldn't be held to your material. You had the concept. And with actors, I find if they don't get the words right, but the feeling was there, even if they butchered the writers, that's more important sometimes. Maybe writers don't agree with that, and I'm a writer-director. But if you can connect with the audience, that's what's key.
I have a playwriting partner, and we've written 6 plays together, and we do extensive reading of the script to make sure that it works. And yet when you go into rehearsal, if the actors can't say the words that you wrote, or if they aren't comfortable with it, then you have to be flexible enough to alter it some way so that the actor can get the words out. And I think that people get too immersed in themselves and don't realize that what they have is a product, that the collaboration, the creative collaboration between the director, the actor, and the writer is a fluid thing, and everybody needs to be flexible. So I think that the amount of flexibility a writer can bring to your project is probably going to be one of the most important things in your decision whether or not you would work with that writer. Am I right or wrong, off base, or what?
Absolutely right. And also, I'll tell you a good little fix for the problem you just mentioned. And sometimes you get a point where an actor can't either. Maybe it's just too complicated. I don't mean that the words are too complicated. I just mean that the thought of what they have to say isn't working with them. And I have a process that I learned out of a book that Michael Biehn, the actor, actually told the director. He said, "Let's play the stickman game." And he said, "What's the stickman game?" He said, "Imagine you're looking at an oil painting. It's big and elaborate. It's got all these colors and everything, but it's a picture of a guy standing in the woods." He said, "Now, if you were to take a piece of paper and a pencil and draw that out and turn him into a stick man, and the trees around him would just be twigs, lines, that's the basics of what that painting really is. It's a guy standing in trees." So you use that when you're trying to think of actors. Tell them, say, "Look, this is what I wrote. This is what we have. Make it simple." I said, "Just you want to take what was in the script and tell your actor to make it simple. Boil it down to whatever its little essence is, and use that."
Well, we're coming up on our time limit here. Do you have a little gem of a tip that would help somebody who would be in our audience if we were actually at Dragon Con in person this year? Do you have a tip for them that would be helpful in getting started and getting started in a healthy, correct direction towards getting it done?
I do. Find people that are at the same level you're at. You'll learn from people who are more experienced than you, but you want to start working with people that are at your same level so that you are all learning at the same pace together. And then you kind of build a team of people that want to do it. I've still got people from my first film that I deal with, and we learn, we didn't know what we were doing the first time, and 20 years later, we're doing pretty well. So, start off with people that you know or people that are at your level, and go to meetups, go to, get on Facebook and ask for help for things. And there's always going to be people that are going to pop out and say, "You should be doing this because you're taking people, you're not paying people." Screw those people. They've been screwed and they have a bad attitude. Get rid of the bad attitude people. You can't make bad attitude people. But mainly just work with people that are your level and learn together. And you get 3 or 4 good people together, you'll grow. And you'll grow to learn how to do this the right way and have fun with it.
Matt McGahren, what about you?
My tip would be, everybody has stories to tell if you're a writer, but if you don't discipline yourself and have every Saturday and Sunday to push it forward and make it a habit, then you won't go anywhere. Because even if it's terrible, it's better to finish it. And I think that's the one thing I continue to work on already is, and being busy. A lot of people are doing this. They're not making their living at it. So they got the 9 to 5 and you're wiped out when you get home, whatever. So, and I found with writing in particular, and you probably can validate this, Matt can, if you write at the same time, every day of the week, something turns on. And it doesn't have to be long to move that. And that could be production every Saturday. That could be storyboards, or it could be whatever in the film world. But having the habit is important. We've been, Matt, we've been a film night. We're trying to hold it every week. We're socially distancing with about 4 or 5 of us, and we're watching a film somebody chooses, and then we're analyzing. Someone says why, and we're consistently doing it. I would say in the last 2 months, that's really been one of the best things I've done in this COVID world, is to continue, since we can't get on set and we can't get that, but we're learning, but the consistency of that was the best part of it so far. What were you going to say, Matt?
One more note, and that is that remember to, when you're writing, just get on the page. It doesn't matter how bad your first draft is. If your idea is there, you will rework it and rewrite it until it becomes right. I've had more than one script that started out. My best film I've made, I think, that I wrote, was the one I think we had 9 drafts. The first draft, I went back and looked at it recently. It was horrible. The dialogue was bad. There were big spaces of action that didn't need to be there. But you weed this stuff out. Just get on the paper. We call that a vomit draft. Vomit it out and then start fixing it. Writing from an existing material is so much easier than that first thing. So just get the first one out, and then you can start massaging it scene by scene. Know where your characters are going, and it starts to flow. And like Matt said, every day at the same time helps.
Yeah, and don't get stuck. Well, we're going to keep giving tips. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
I'm going to say I've had this discussion. My son, who's in college now, is interested in film, and we've been having the debate of whether how you plan your screenplay. I thought this would come up. You know, do you structure the whole thing? Do you kind of let the character go? Do you have an end in mind? And everyone does it differently. Some of them, like Tarantino, they just let the character find out where they're going, and then there's a whole turn. So don't get bogged down. You're going to read so much about this is the right way, that's the right way. Just get moving, like Matt says.
There's my timer going off. Let me turn it off.
Our soundtrack.
I cannot get it off. Well, I'll sit on it. Well, thank you, Matt Green and Matt McGahren. And where can we find your next best thing coming out?
My next thing, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of stuff because ever since COVID hit. So Evil Little Things was just released. You can also find No Sin Unpunished, which is available on Amazon and through DVD on Amazon. I'm not sure if it's on Amazon Prime, but it's a really good film. It also was released this year that we shot just before that one.
Mm-hmm.
And the film I'm doing now is called Sisters, and hopefully that'll be in a film festival near you in the next year. So.
Okay.
I've had a number of short films we've been putting in festivals over the last year. We had one at Dragon Con that won the best fan film. It's a Jason's Nightmare. I've decided to start releasing them onto my website, ironshadowcinema.com. So we're going to try to release one every 1 or 2 weeks. It's about 10 short films and put those out there. I was about to shoot a short film and it got shut down with COVID. We were literally ready to go. And we were going to use the Renaissance Festival. We were going to do something very crazy. But now I'm restructuring films to shoot with 1 or 2 people with the COVID as people come out of this. And then hopefully next year I'm in Arizona shooting a feature called The Bad Men. And I'll let you know.
And just a note on mine, you go to my YouTube again. That's Camera FX24. Put that into YouTube. My channel comes up, and please join it and check out all my shorts and things.
Well, thank you guys. It's been wonderful, and I will see you. The best tip, though, I think, is come to Dragon Con next year and meet these 2 people personally, and maybe you can ask some questions, because we will have a panel on Sunday night next year about filmmaking. So good night, guys, and good night, Dragon Con people.
Thank you.
Good evening. Bye, guys.